Hello and welcome to Relatively Crafty, a knitting podcast. I'm your host, Christy. I come to you from the Denver area of Colorado, where I live with my husband, Ron, our two daughters, Tatum and Delaney, our tuxedo kitty, Lilu, and our Padango puppy, Sophie. Welcome. This is a knitting podcast. I'm going to talk to you about things that I have recently finished, things that I'm currently working on, the things that I hope to work on in the nearby future, and maybe some yarn that I've got and some stuff that's happened in life and yeah, that kind of thing. So I hope you're into it. I have got so many FOs to show you guys. I think I have four that I have finished since podcasting, 2 extras that were finished before but got improved. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll start with the most simple one, and that is this hat. This is just a plain hat. It's the basic recipe that I use. I use a size US 5 for the ribbing and a US 7 for the stockinette portion. For this, I was using leftovers. You guys might recall I had some leftover of that highlighter yellow from my outline tee that I had made earlier in the year, and so I paired it with a green, I believe, and some yellow mohair. You can see that this has a definite halo. So I cast on 96 stitches, did a 2x2 rib for I think 40 rows, and then I folded it in half and then knit it together so it's a folded brim. Increased up to 100 stitches for the rest of the hat, and just did stockinette on a US 7. I ran out of the green, and so I paired that highlighter yellow with some navy, and I had some navy mohair, and then at the top I stopped with the navy and used some orange and use some orange mohair. So I was able to use up a lot of some leftovers, which was lovely. It's a very simple hat. I didn't make it for anyone in particular, and I will probably give it to my brother, though I don't know if he will wear it. He's more of a muted type of a guy, and this is kind of bright. Who knows? Maybe I will wear it. I don't know. I think it's cute, and yeah, simple. It used up some leftovers. I was able to get some stuff out of my stash, and that was that. Okay, so let's discuss the 2 things that I had finished previously, but I have improved upon. The first one is the potluck pullover by Victoria Zakanowicz, which I knit out of mustache yarns in a Halloween mini set. You guys recall, I had finished this and was a little bit bummed because it was a little bit too wide and a little bit too long. And so I took an idea from Lane Bryant. I buy a lot of my clothes from Lane Bryant, and they have these shirts that are kind of runched at the sides, and it makes them a little bit tighter. And so I asked my mom and my aunt if they thought they could add some elastic to the sides, which they did. Actually, my aunt did. And so it brings the shirt in a little bit, and it makes it not seem so long. So now it's got a little extra flair. I have just gotten this back from them, so I will, from them, I keep saying, just got it back from my aunt. And so now I can wear it. Today is September 30th, I believe. Oh, I just got a new Fitbit, and I've been trying to find a cute, face for it, and I thought I found the perfect one, but it doesn't have the date on it. Who doesn't put the date on things? Today is September 30th, so it's just perfect time to get it back, and I will wear it to work probably on Monday. So yeah, that is all improved and completed and ready to go, and I think it's going to be perfect now. Another thing, you guys recall this sweater that I recently finished, the Gartrell, which I had knit out of a beautiful coral fade kit that I had gotten, and unfortunately it bled, and so I was super bummed that that I had coral, or bleeding yarn all over the white parts of the sweater. And so I said that I had mentioned to you guys that I was going to be sending it to my friend Amy, who dyes for Cannon Hand Dyed and for Dragonfly Fibers. And I had commissioned her to overdye it for me. And I wasn't expecting to get it back until after November, because she had a lot of shows coming up, but apparently she found time and just sent it back to me recently. So it's all better now. Look at it. Isn't it beautiful? So she knows me really well, and she's like, do you want, can I have carte blanche and do what I want with it? I said, yes, please. So she's given it this beautiful fade, orange to this, beautiful deep red, and it's perfect. I absolutely love it. The colors are amazing. You still can see a little bit where this was the undyed yarn, and this was where the coral fade was. You can see a little bit of a line, but I ain't worried about it. The worst part actually was having to sew on buttons all again, because the coral buttons that I had before no longer worked. But I did have these awesome wood buttons in stash, and they are all different, but kind of coordinating, and I think they go really well. So yeah, so I got it back. I got it back super quick. Absolutely loved it. Sewed on new buttons. Tried it on. Took a picture. Loved it. But it needed pockets. And my original Gartrell had pockets. And I wear it all the time. And I use the pockets all the time for my hands. So I decided to go ahead and put pockets on this. But then I was like, well, what color do I use for the pockets? Well, I still had some more of the white. I had a whole skein left of the undyed yarn. So I went ahead and made them in the undyed, but I knew that this was super saturated, and so I was probably going to get some runoff, and I capitalized on that. And so I don't know if you can tell in the camera, but they're kind of splotchy with the red and orange, and I think it's perfect. It's exactly what I was hoping was going to happen. I soaked it in some warmish water to get some of that that color to run off, and yeah, I absolutely love them now. Love this sweater now, and I am just waiting for it to get cold enough to be able to wear it. We did have a couple of chilly days, and then it got warm again, but it is supposed to be in the mid-60s all next week, and so I expect I will be able to wear this a lot. So I absolutely love it. I am still a little heartbroken that I didn't get to enjoy it in its original form, because I was really excited about that whole process. and I loved the finished item before blocking, but at least I can still, you know, wear it. And honestly, I'm probably going to get more use out of this because I was concerned about having white sleeves, because I know who I am, and I am a klutz and a slob. So it would have been way too easy for me to stick my sleeve in something and stain it. Now I will probably still stick my sleeve in something, but you won't be able to notice as easily because the sleeves are dark. Yeah. And look at that fade. I mean, she just faded it. It's, oh, she's such a talented dyer. I don't know if you guys have ever used Canon hand dyes or Dragonfly fibers, but if you ever get an opportunity, she is such a talented dyer. And yeah, I just love what she did. So now it is all better and will be put into heavy rotation for this fall and winter. Okay, so those are all of the older FOs, but now I have well, I guess the hat. Well, but actually I finished the hat like right after I talked to you guys last, so it has been a while. But I have new FOs. I still have 3 more. When I podcast last, which was just about a month ago, actually it's funny because I had just gotten this when I podcast last, like the day before. Well, yesterday I just got it finished. So it is still covered in plastic, but this is new plastic. So I got all the shading done, and I absolutely love it. You guys will have to see it when it's not covered in plastic and not shiny. I also got a little ghosty. That one's a new one too. We went to Steamboat for our 25th anniversary with our best friend couples. They are the parents of Delaney's best friend, and they have become our best friends too. We spend a lot of time with them, and they celebrated their 20th anniversary like 5 days before our 25th anniversary. So we decided we should go out for a weekend away together as a group, you know, just the 4 adults. And so we went to Steamboat, which is up in the mountains, kind of near Vail. And Jen and I got matching tattoos. It's like, oh, ghosty. I think it's adorable. Anyway, yeah, I have a problem. This is, I think, my midlife crisis, the new tattoos, but it could be worse, right? I mean, that's kind of not a bad midlife crisis to have, or the way to live out your midlife crisis. Anyway, when I was talking to you guys last, I had mentioned that I was getting ready to go on a training that was local. It was in Denver, and it was going to be for a couple of days. I wasn't going to be in the office. I was going to be at this hotel in Denver, and so I needed something to knit while I was there. So I was working on a Tulsta tee by Rebecca Clow, and I wanted to get it to where the sleeves, I had taken the sleeves off so that I could just knit the stockinette for those 2.5 days that I was in the training. Well, I did get that finished. So here is my first Tulsta tee, and I say first because I have a couple more. So this is knit out of Barocco Remix Light, and the colorway is Blue Moon. It is a really pretty blue. This is a DK weight yarn listed, but it's really thin. It's a heavily mixture of different yarns. Hang on a second. Let me get a tag. Let me get a tag. Hang on. I have more of it. So it is 30% nylon, 27% cotton, 24% acrylic, 10% silk, and 9% linen. And it is really light. I really don't know that I would call it a DK. Maybe a sport. I could almost pass for a fingering. But I wanted to knit something simple, and I had 2 skeins of this, and excuse me, and it's perfect for this, for the environment that I was in. I haven't worn it yet. I've been waiting for podcasting. But last week probably would have been a great time to wear it because it was so warm. And this is a cropped, I knit this one to pattern, so it is very cropped, and it's got quite a bit of positive ease. It's got short rows to raise the back a little bit, but with this yarn, it's hard to see, obviously, which is the back and which is the front. I can find the short rows, but it's such a hassle to have to look for those each time I put it on. And so I sewed a handmade tag on the front. So now I know which side is the front and which side is the back. Here are some pictures of me wearing it. I don't know that I'm going to wear it an awful lot, but it served its purpose for what I needed it to be when I was knitting. So this is one of those things that the process of knitting it was more enjoyable than the product. But I did really enjoy knitting the pattern. I don't know that this was the right pair of yarn, but you know, I was able to use some yarn that I'd had in my stash for a long time, and that was nice. And yeah, you know, I have this cute top that I can wear. I probably wear it more next summer. Hopefully, I will be even less of me by then, and it'll kind of do a great 80s super oversized boxy thing. So yeah, that is finished. As I said, I knit it entirely to pattern, and it works out just fine. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It was a fun, easy pattern, very well written. It's the first Rebecca Clow pattern that I have knit, but not the first that I bought, and not the last that I will knit. She is a very prolific designer from Scotland who has only been designing for a year, but has already put out 6 or so patterns, garment patterns, and has like 4 or 5 more before the end of the year. So and it seems like everything that she designs I now want to knit. So I'm definitely going to be knitting many more of her things. Her Leith cardigan that just released this month is adorable, and I'm trying to remind myself that I've got to finish some of the stuff that I have on the needles before I cast that on. So that is that Tulsta. And then let's see, I told you guys that I had picked up some cotton at Joann's, and my mom and my aunt were with me, and they were like, ooh, we like that. Could you make one for us too? So I thought, well, okay, I'll get to it eventually. And then my mom asked recently, so how's that coming? I was like, well, crud, now she really wants it, so I should probably get started on it. I had another trip to Minnesota coming up, another training for work. The last one that's on the forecast, I don't have any planned to go back anytime soon, but who knows? I mean, I have gone to some training or another at least 3 days out of the month, every month since June. And I do have one set up for October, although it's here in Denver. So it's been great to kind of do all these trips and learn all these things. It's been really great. I love my new promotion, and I'm really enjoying my job, but it is hard to get stuff done when you're out of the office a week out of every month. Anyway, So I knew that I had another trip coming up, and that was, the week before last. And I was going to be spending some time in Minnesota, so I decided I obviously needed another stockinette, something to work on. I might as well start on Mom's sweater. So the yarn that I used was this KNC, which KNC actually stands for knit and crochet. KNC 100% cotton. I had, let's see, I had one skein in this beautiful green, which is rainforest, and then I had a couple of skeins in this, which is Joshua Tree, and it's kind of a stripy, stone-washed look to it. And I cast on Fresh Berries, which is the pattern that I had expected to make with this yarn. That's what I was going to make for mine. And it was a pattern written by Universal Yarn, for Universal Yarn. It was meant to be used for Cotton Supreme. Cotton Supreme DK Waves, which is kind of the same gradiated self-striping cotton yarn, and it's the same kind of yarn as the KNC cotton, and so I went ahead and used it for that. And I started it well before we left, and I wanted to get past the sleeves, because this body, without any waist shaping, it's super simple. It's just knitting in the round. It's like socks, only you're getting, a whole garment accomplished. And so I thought, well, I'll work on the sleeves, work on this part maybe while I'm on the airplane or in the airport, because that first day is just a whole lot of traveling. So it would be perfect to work on. But I very quickly learned that this raglan is not for mindless knitting. Nothing. A raglan, if you're not familiar, is a very basic way to construct a sweater top down. You have 4 points of increases, and you basically increase on either side of the 4 points. There's 2 here in the front, 2 here in the back. And so you increase on this side to increase the front, you increase on this side to increase the sleeve, and then the same at each point. So you do 8 increases in one row, and then in the next row, you just knit straight. So it's very simple. The hardest part is remembering to stop at the right spot. Sometimes the sleeves will stop increases early, and then you'll increase a couple more for the body, but generally it's about the same. This, however, none of the increases were at the same rate, and so I had to actually keep hash marks because the body was increasing. This is a free pattern. I'm not giving away anything. The body increases were like every row for 13 times, and the sleeves were every 4th row, every other row, and then you switched, and then it switched again, and so it was never the same, and I had to really pay attention. So I did work on it while I was at work during my lunch breaks, and I would keep my hash marks, and I had it where the sleeves were taken off by the time I left for the airport for Minnesota, and I just had the body. So I did get all of that knit while I was in Minnesota, and let me tell you, I have mentioned this before, that like pretty much every other knitter on the planet or crocheter, I overpack for vacations, for trips. I make sure that I have not overpack my clothes, although I do always bring an extra pair of chonies, because while I have never, in the past, in my adult life, had an accident, I am certain that the one time I don't pack an extra pair of chonies is the one time I'm going to poop my pants. I don't know. Anyway, but I always overpack my knitting. I will bring entirely too many projects. There's no human possibility that I could ever get through all of that knitting in the week or 4 days or however long I'm going to be gone. But I'm going to bring it because what happens if I run out? What happens if the plane gets canceled? What happens if there's a tornado and I am stranded in wherever for however long? I need to have knitting. And so I always have more than enough, except for when I went to Minnesota this month. When I went to Minnesota this month, I brought just this. I had, I think I was in the second skein of 4. When I take the sleeves off, and I brought 2 more skeins, and that was it. And that was all of the knitting I brought. Well, I very quickly learned that I did not bring enough knitting. How? And all of those irrational fears I had about running out of knitting outside of my house came true. I didn't have enough knitting. I got there on Monday. I quickly realized, with the amount of knitting that I got done in the airport and on the airplane, that I was going to run out of knitting by Tuesday, and I was going to be there until Thursday. What was I going to do? I tried to be very calm about it, and I told my coworkers, I had gone with 3 of my coworkers that I've worked with for 5 years. They know who I am and how I am about my knitting, and I tried to casually comment to them that I was afraid I was going to run out of knitting. And they were like, what are you going to do? I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Is there yarn? Are there yarn stores near here? Well, yeah, there are, but they're like 2 miles. The closest one was like 2 miles away. I don't have a car. Yes, I could Uber it, but I was in trainings. So, like, when am I supposed to do this? And we had socialization events in the evenings too. So it wasn't like I was just in trainings until 5 and then I had the rest of the evening to myself. No, I had to do these things, these team building events. And so I'm like, when am I going to be able to go and get some yarn, and how am I going to get there? I'll Uber. But, so like Monday night and Tuesday night, I didn't knit at night. That hour or so that I had between when the socialization was over and when before I went to sleep, I'm watching Doctor Who episodes, and I'm not knitting, and I'm twitching, and I'm like, I could probably make this last through the trainings on Wednesday, but Thursday I've got to fly back to Colorado. And that means I'm going to be in the airport for at least 2 hours, just sitting there waiting for my plane. And then I'm going to be on the plane for 2 hours. Are you guys feeling the stress? Thankfully, there were enough people who knew me and who supported me that a whole group of us went to the Mall of America. Did you know that they have yarn stores in the Mall of America? I have never heard of a yarn store in a mall. We ended up going there instead of to the local yarn shop because the local yarn shop had funky hours. Not funky hours. They had great hours, but it was funky for the time that we had available. However, the Mall of America had later hours, so we could go there at night, because I think they were open until 9, and there's a little yarn shop there. So I did go to the yarn shop. It's called, I think it was just called, what was it called? Knit and Crochet, I think it was called. And I was talking to the gal there, and I was like, I have never heard of a yarn shop in a mall. And she said that apparently they have like 20 different locations. All but 2 of them are in Mexico, and then there are 2 in Minnesota, which just blew my mind. I'm like, oh, that's awesome that there was a yarn shop in the mall. Now it wasn't a normal yarn shop. It did have, I mean, it had yarn shop yarns, but it was more of the commercially, like they would have Barocco or Opal or Regia, stuff that's made in a mill. No hand dyed yarns, no indie dyed yarns. It was all more commercially made, but dude, it was great. If I had needed more yarn and had more time, because I was only given a few minutes by my coworkers, I probably could have easily bought a couple of sweaters quantities. But I did buy a bag. This is their like their motto, "Love is all you knit." And yeah, so I will show you the yarn that I got later, because that is in my whips. But yeah, so I got this mostly finished while I was in Minnesota, and then I came home. This is it. I think I need to trim that a little bit more. It's woven in, it just needs to be trimmed a little bit more. Anyway, I came home and I finished the sleeves, and I pulled it up and I showed it. I'm like, this is big. It was big for me, and my mom is smaller than me, and I was like, crap, what am I gonna do? So I looked online, and I was like, how do you shrink a cotton sweater? And somebody online suggested washing it in hot and then drying it in hot. And I did that, and that did help a little bit, but it still had a really wide neck. I think I've got a picture of me. I just threw it on over a shirt that I was already wearing, and you can see how wide the neck is. So I ripped out the neckline, and I did a bunch of decreases to make the neck smaller. Now it fits better. It's still, like, it fits me now, but I still think it's going to be a little bit big for Mom. But here is a picture of me wearing it after I got it to shrink a little bit. I don't know. It's not perfect. If she doesn't wear it, you know, if it's just too big for her, then I'll find something else to do with it. But it was an enjoyable knit. I was able to kind of not feel too bad about this, because I have just had bad luck with knitting for my mom this year. You know, the things that I've made her have either been too small or too big, and I can't seem to get them just right. But I did cast on the other sweater quantity that she had bought for herself out of that K&C cotton. And I thought, you know what, this is also a DK weight yarn. Why don't I make another Tolsta tee? And so that is what I did. I cast on another Tolsta for my mom. And I obviously didn't make it cropped, but it's going to fit her just right. And I did find that this was a much more enjoyable way to knit this, a much more enjoyable yarn to knit the pattern. And so it's a better fit yarn than the Barocco. You can see that I did not alternate skeins. I didn't think it was going to matter too much. I was knitting it while we were on our little weekend away for our anniversary, and I just knit one skein at a time, and the first two skeins, like the first skein ends somewhere around here, and I was like, oh, well, you can't. The nice thing about commercial yarn is that, you know, you don't really have to worry about dye lots quite as much. Or these were all the same dye lot. You don't have to, because they're all the same dye lot, you don't really have to worry about it, because they all come out pretty much exactly the same. It's the one advantage to commercially dyed yarns that hand-dyed yarn misses out on. Obviously not, because you can definitely see where that third skein started. Yeah, and Mom says it doesn't bother her. I did kind of manage to make it so that it's kind of similar on the sleeves, so it kind of looks color blocked, sort of, in a way. She says she's going to wear it anyway. I did soak it in warm water, trying to get it to maybe run off a little bit more, because this colorway, oh, which is, by the way, Iditarod, and the hem, the neckband and sleeves is Lavender Field. But this Iditarod bled all over my hands. I have very dry hands, so my palms never sweat, and so I'm knitting with this stuff, and I tension my yarn like this, right? So I always expect that a yarn that is going to rub off is going to rub off around my pinky and here on my finger, maybe here on the inside, maybe on my fingertips, but nowhere else. This bled all over my hands. Like the palms of my hands were blue. And that's saying something, because like I said, my hands are very dry, and I don't, there was no liquid, no moisture involved in my hands and this cotton yarn. So it was very surprising to have that much color transfer. But yeah, so I thought, well, if I soak it in some, like warmish water, then maybe the colors will kind of meld together a little bit better. I don't think that happened, but like I said, it doesn't bother her, and that warms my heart, because I felt bad. I was like, crap, I'm working on this sweater, and it's too big and I can't get it smaller, and then this one has, funky dyes problems, and I'm like, crap, I cannot do right by my mom. But she is coming tonight. My dad, both my parents had their birthdays this week, and my mom's was last Sunday. The girls and my mom and my aunt, we all went out for a high tea at the Brown Palace in Denver. And then my dad's birthday was on Tuesday, and he turned 70. Mom turned 70 last year, so this is his big milestone birthday. So we are going out to dinner tonight to a special steakhouse. And so I will see her this evening, and I'm going to give these both to her, and hopefully she will at least be able to wear this one and enjoy it. Yeah, thankfully the yarn wasn't expensive. I think they were like $6 or $7 a skein, so it's not like she's out a whole lot of money on the yarn, but I did want her to have some wearable sweaters. I do have my aunt's in the process. It's one of the whips, and then I do have one more sweater quantities worth of it, the one that I originally bought for myself, that is here. So hopefully maybe I'll get it all knit this year, because I have enjoyed knitting with this cotton. This is not, it doesn't like suck all the moisture out of your hands. It doesn't feel like kitchen cotton. It's pleasant to knit with. It doesn't hurt my hands. It's a DK weight, but I think it's more, really feel like it knits almost at a worsted weight. But yeah, it's pleasant, and I do like the colors. This one was super fun to watch the colors change. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that is that. I have one more FO, and I do want to give just a bit of a spoiler alert on this. If you purchased the Gem State Halloween Advent, then you might want to look away, because I knit this out of it, and I don't think you're supposed to open it until like the middle of October, so that the last day is Halloween. And I obviously didn't wait, and I opened it all in September and then knit it all in September. So 10 years ago, I knit a bracken vest by Katja Frankel. And I really enjoyed the pattern. I loved the way it looked on the pictures, but I was still new enough to knitting garments that I didn't knit it to fit me right. and I never really wore it. I was also, yeah, it just wasn't what, it didn't fit right. It didn't fit right, and I never wore it, and I just kind of was sad about it. But I always loved the way the pattern looked, and so I wanted to make it again, and it took me until opening up this Gem State Advent to find the right yarn to remake it. And so I did. This was I think that there were different options. You could get DK or fingering weight minis. You might have even been able to get worsted, but definitely DK and fingering weight or fingering weight. And then you could get 13 minis or 31 minis with or without a full skein. So I opted for the 13 minis with a full skein, and I opened it all at once. I didn't want to do it as an Advent, one day at a time. I do enjoy that in December. I've done that for the past 2 years, but this one she had said that she had kind of put them in a fade order, but not entirely, and because she didn't want anybody to then kind of miss out on being able to be surprised by the next day. If it was a fade, you'd kind of know what color was coming. And so I really wanted it to fade properly, so I went ahead and opened them all at once, and then decided to knit another bracken. So I got the 13 and a full skein, and here are most all of them all knit up. I did put them in the order that I wanted to. And here is the front. And here is me wearing it, and I love it. It's perfect. I had this 3/4 sleeve kind of raglan t-shirt that I've had for a long time, and it works perfectly underneath this. And I have these green slacks that jogger slacks that work perfectly with it. They really bring out the green here, and I feel like this outfit is perfectly on point, and I absolutely love it. This purple was my full skein, and I do have a decent amount of it left. And it's a beautiful Halloweeny purple with some dark, almost black in there. And I used 12 of the 13 colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I must have had 12 colors. And I used 11 of them because I did not use this one. I would have if I needed it, but I didn't. It was my least favorite, having such a heavy amount of black in it. But I would have still used it. However, I didn't end up needing it. And I did have some leftovers of these other colors. I used up all of the colors on the bottom. But I did have some leftovers of these higher colors. And I will say that this part was not a whole lot of fun when you're trying to make sure that they match with the different colors that you're using and using different yarns. So I will probably make this sweater again. I'm certain I will make this vest again because I really enjoyed it, and I love the way that it looks on me. But I think I will make it in a more solid color because, or maybe something that's got variegation or something, but where I'm only using 1 skein of yarn because all of these ends sucked. Because here I couldn't do the weft, the clasped weft join because there wasn't enough yarn, there wasn't enough stitches. Some of these, it's like 7 stitches across, 8 stitches across. It wasn't enough to be able to do a clasped weft join properly. So yeah, but I absolutely love it. I found some buttons in my stash that were perfect for it, and I dig it. I wore it once to work, and I just felt pretty all day long. So so yeah, I'm definitely going to be making more of these because it is a fun pattern and it works up fairly quickly. I will say that these straps are fiddly, and you know it's a bit of a hassle, but the end result is totally worth it. And it was so nice to re-knit a pattern that I had failed at 10 years ago and have it be such a success. And it really felt good. So by the clock on my tablet, we are 48 minutes in, and I have just finished the FOs. Oh, got a lot done lately. So let's talk about whips. I don't have as many whips as I had FOs, which I guess is a good thing. Although there's so much more that I want to cast on right away. But I talked about having to go to the yarn shop in Minnesota. I decided that the best thing to do, because I didn't want to buy a whole lot of yarn that I was going to then have to take home, and I didn't want to have to find a pattern and find a way to print out a pattern and deal with all that. I thought, you know what, I will just get some sock yarn and a pair of US 1 needles, and I'll start a pair of socks. And they had a whole wall of Regia Perfect. I have knit Perfect before for Ron a couple of times. Those socks are always great for Ron. He really likes the hard wearing, you know, the kind of that workhorse yarn. So I grabbed this skein of Regia Perfect. It's the design line by Arne and Carlos, and the colorway is 09136. I'm like, I'll just make socks for Ron. Like I said, I've made Regia Perfect socks before for him, and he loves them, and so I will do that. So I cast on that evening, and I knit a whole sock. I was like, wait, this leg is not as long as Ron likes. He likes it to be at least another inch longer. But, you know, with the Perfect, you have to start the heel when the color tells you to. So so I was like, okay, well, all right. And I did a heel flap and gusset because I knew that would use up, I figured that would use up more of the green, as I didn't want to have too much of this here in the center. I still did have a little bit, but it kind of looks like it's a planned stripe. And then I realized as I'm working down the foot that I am going to get to the green for the toe well before Ron's foot. So I don't know what kind of feet they were expecting. This is a 64 stitch sock, which is pretty average. But I had to knit, gosh, for like 2 inches of just green before I started the toe. It might have been just fine for like my foot, but Ron wears a 10 and a half in men's, and so there's a lot of toe, a lot of green at the base of the foot, which I don't really like. I think they look ugly. Let's be honest, I think it looks ugly. I don't like this contrast color starting so early on the foot, but Ron says that he will wear them with pride. So I went ahead and cast on the second sock. I have it in an appropriately themed bag for the season. This is from You So and So. I don't know if she still has a shop, but I absolutely love bats. Freaking love bats. So I have cast on the second sock, and I'm like 2/3 of the way through the foot, and I will finish it, and he will wear them, and that's great. You're supposed to take the yellow out. I don't know if if anybody has experience with Perfect, but there's this yellow that is at either end of the skein. It tells you exactly where to start, and you're supposed to take off the yellow and start just with the color. And then there's yellow in between the two, so you know where you know, when you finish the yarn for the first sock and where to start the second one. However, I like to make sure that these socks match exactly, so I cast on right where that yellow turned to green, and so my cast on edge has the yellow in it. It's fine, but that's why it's there, and not in other people's. So yeah, so I will finish this sock. I'm not working on it real actively, but it's around for when I have no brain power to think. I might take it to like dinner tonight because it's perfect for that kind of thing. As we're celebrating my parents on their birthdays, I can work on this while we're waiting for the food to arrive and that kind of thing. I did make some progress on my Crisscross by Isabel Kramer. And when I podcast last month, I didn't have any movement on that, but I have since then. So here it is. You can, there you go. So you can see the little crisscross pattern starting on the back. That is done in reverse stockinette, and the rest of it is in stockinette. So it gives it a little bit of interest. It does make it a little bit harder for this to be portable because I have to bring out the chart and follow it. The nice thing is that I can do it while I'm watching TV because it's a very simple chart. So I still haven't taken the sleeves off, and it's been sitting since right before I went to Minnesota. So I need to get back onto it, but it's a pretty simple, and I think it will move pretty quickly once I get back into it. I have been distracted with traveling and other things that I have been really excited about, mostly traveling knitting, though. As I said, I have the Tulsta for my aunt cast on. This is all that I have. I just started it last night. So I've done the short rows, and I'm now just increasing for the raglan. This is out of that same K&C yarn. This color is ground, and then the solid is Gulf side. So this one, it looks like it's more variegated and less stripy. So more like this one and less like this one, which is interesting. But yeah, I'm enjoying this color. And this will be my take to work project. Now it is also in a appropriately decorated bag. This is one of the new ones that my aunt just made for me. Absolutely adorable. Yeah. Oh, I have one more. So I was looking at what projects that I've had on the needles for a long time, and that Fargo, man, I have had that on my plan to finish up for the past 3 years, and you know, I got one sleeve done, and then it sat for a long time, and then I got the second sleeve done, and then it sat for a long time, and then I cast on for the body, and then it sat for a long time. So I finally set myself down last night, yesterday, before I got my tattoo work done, and I did one round of the chart. I went through the chart, which is like 16 rows. I went through the chart once, the main chart, and then this morning I went through the chart a second time. So I now have some solid work done on the body. Here is, that is, right here is the main cable. And I think it's beautiful. This yarn is so pretty. It is such a pretty colorway. I think that these are going to go so nicely together. I do wish that this was a little bit more saturated. This one's so saturated, and this one seems a little bit faded, but I still think I'm gonna love it. So so yeah, I have two. I think I have to go through the chart 6 times maybe for the front. So hopefully I won't run out of yarn because I only have these 2 left, and I'm in this this skein already. So yeah, we'll see. I might have to order more. I am not alternating skeins either because with all this cable and moss stitch, alternating sucks. So I'm not doing that. So I'm just kind of really taking my life in my own hands with this. I might get, you know, differences because of the dye lots. It's hand dyed yarns. You know, it's just going to be what it's going to be, and I'm gonna wear it no matter what. So even if I have to buy another skein and it doesn't match hardly at all, it is what it is. For obvious reasons, this takes a lot of focus. The cable is not difficult, but there's 2 different charts, and then there's all this moss stitch, which I am doing kind of wrong, but that's okay. I'm doing it over 2 rows instead of 4 rows, but that's the way it is. And yeah, so I'm trying to work on it when I have enough time and enough brain power to be able to get through a whole repeat. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. If you recall, in my last podcast, I talked about how I had ordered some Diablo from Hobby Yarns, Hobbii, Hobby, to go with this Volmaiza lace to make a cardigan. I was hoping that it was going to be this color. It's not. It's not. I think it might still work. But if not, I do have some other yarn. Actually, the Kenzie that I just bought in my last podcast is almost exactly the same shade, and so I might still pair this together, or I might pair this with the Kenzie, because I just want to be able to have a sweater that's made out of this color. And so while this will obviously tone down this chartreuse, I still have the Kenzie in the same, almost the same shade. So yeah, I do think that I'm going to pair this together. But it came, and it was a bit of a fiasco. It came from Denmark, I believe, but it went to New York, and then it went to Denver, and I was like, yay! And then it went to LA, and I was like, boo! And then it was like, it said, oh, it's undeliverable, and I was like, what the hell? And then it went back to Denver, and I was like, okay, woo! And it made it to my door. So, so I have that. And I guess that's it, guys. I got lots of stuff to clean up now. But yeah, I've now, I think I have knit 15 or 16 different garments this year. So I definitely made my 12. I'm like, well, maybe I can make it to 20, because I still have 3 full months left. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying my sweater mojo going on right now. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Happy knitting, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.